Hey everybody, it is Tuesday and it's the 1st of December. Wow, already. Um, Still not very good weather outside, is it? But we were talking about taxes, and we were talking about one in particular yesterday, and that was the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act, right? So take a look at these. I know they don't look very well. They're kind of messed up. Maybe you can even look some of these up online, be a little bit better. But these are some of the stamps they use. This says 1 penny a sheet right here. Um, they didn't come out very well, but some of those are stamps that they use once you bought a newspaper, a diploma, playing cards, something like that. So we're going to look at a little bit into more what happened with that Stamp Act. And this is what happened. If it would stay still, there it goes. No new taxes, it says. Look at this same. If you can, write down the same. No taxation without representation. No taxation without representation. What does that mean? Just what I was telling you yesterday. What I was telling you was this. Why can I not have representation in a lawmaking body like Parliament that is making laws for me? Imagine this, that we would have no representation in our own Congress, yet they're making laws for all of us here, even in Ohio. Now, that's just silliness. But it could happen just like that. It could happen like that. But it's not going to happen because we're not going to let it happen. And tell you what, these people are not going to let it happen either. We are Americans. We are Americans. And we just don't sit back and let things go haywire, do we? I hope not. I sure hope not. I got a lot of faith in you guys. I sure do. So let's look at what they did. People started to organize. Organize groups to oppose the Stamp Act. They're going to organize groups to oppose the Stamp Act. What does that mean? Protests? Maybe. Might be protests. Might be. You've seen it all summer long. You've seen protests. People don't believe about something. They go to the streets. They take it to the streets, they say. Riots and rallies started to happen in the cities. And government agents of the British government were threatened. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound familiar yet? Now, let me tell you, this is happening today in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways. People don't agree with things, and they do have riots and they do have rallies. I'm not saying that every riot and every rally is right. Just because you have a rally or just because you have a protest doesn't mean that you're right. But you get your word out there, don't you? Those that are violent are wrong. If you have a peaceful protest, nobody can say anything wrong with that. It's peaceful. Give your protest. You have your signs. You march down the street. You tell everybody what you think. Boom, boom, you're done. Breaking windows and destroying people's lives and taking their businesses is wrong. And they weren't even doing that. They weren't going to do that. But there were riots and there were protests. And there would be some people that might get a little bit off the side rail. A little bit off the side rail there. And they may do some violent things. That's not good for anybody. Let's see how far they do go. Here's what they do. A group calling themselves the Sons of Liberty. Write this down right here. Write this down. The Sons of Liberty. They burned a pile of stamps. Those are the wooden stamps, not stamps that you lick or you put on an envelope. The wooden stamps. They burned a pile of them to protest the Stamp Act. Wow, that was just really violent. Not really. I'm sure there was some things that went on that probably weren't too cool. All right, but to burn a bunch of stamps in the street, it's not really violent yet. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's getting hurt yet, unless they broke into somebody's store and stole them. Now that's not good, right there. Not sticking up for them. Daughters of Liberty, Sons of Liberty, Daughters of Liberty, the women, wore homespun dresses and would not drink tea. Well, that'll show them. What is a homespun dress? It means the clothes that they wore, the dresses that they wore, were usually pretty nice, made of cotton uh, or wool or something like that. But the homespun dresses were mostly wool, but very harsh. They weren't put together as nice as your cotton t-shirts are or this cotton sweater. Okay, so they were kind of itchy and they didn't look as nice. They weren't very flattering to the women. And so they wore those dresses. And when they saw these women wearing these dresses, it brought a question. Why are you wearing this? Why are you wearing this? Now they could tell them. They could let their voice be heard. And what about not drinking tea? Well, we're not drinking tea. That's just it. Hey, all right with me. Tea was the drink of the day. Like everybody drinks coffee. We got Starbucks, we got McDonald's, everybody's got coffee. How many people are drinking tea? Not that many. Imagine if you had a boycott of coffee and everybody stopped drinking coffee. First of all, I would not like that. You know that? But it shows them that we are trying to prove a point. We're not going to buy the tea that you're selling us. That way, we're not going to drink it. So there's no market for it. If there's no market for it, somebody's losing money. They're hitting them where it counts in the pocketbook. In the pocketbook, right? Yeah, those women will show them. Colonial merchants also agreed. Now, this is really going to show not to buy or sell any British made items or goods. That is going to hurt. By 1765, over 1,000 merchants agreed not to buy or sell any British made goods. Anything. This is something else I want you to write. The non-importation agreement. Non-importation agreement. This was known as a boycott. A couple things you need to know there. Non-importation agreement. They're not going to bring anything in to sell that's British. That means that they're boycotting it. They're boycotting it. Now, what does that mean? Well, years ago, gas went up to almost, way past $3 a gallon, almost $4 a gallon. It did. What's it now? Buck 88. It's the lowest I've seen in a long, long time. All right, a buck 88. It's because we make our own resources now. We have our own oil. We don't buy oil from anybody. Matter of fact, we're selling oil. We are energy free because we have our own energy. That's the way it should be. But years ago, we did not. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and gas was way up to almost $4 a gallon around here. California, $6. And people decided we're just not going to buy gas. They pick a day, like a Tuesday or a Thursday. You realize how much money they lost by people not buying gas that day? Amazing. People started driving together. Now, it helped the environment because instead of having 5 people drive a car, you had one with 5 people in it. Helps the environment. It's kind of like taking the bus. So it really hurt the oil and gas industry. And they kind of got the idea. But what could they do about it? They were charging that much money because they were being charged by wherever they were buying the oil from, and they had to put the charge onto us. They don't have to do that anymore because they're getting our own oil from the United States of America. They can charge a lower cost for gas, and more people are working. It's a great idea. It is a great idea. So that's what a boycott is. You just don't buy a certain thing, and you'll see that before you know it, the price is either going to go down or those people are going to go out of business, one or the other, right? So let's see what happens with this. Okay, so we have the Sons of Liberty that are burning stamps in the street. We have the Daughters of Liberty that are not drinking tea and wearing hideous dresses. And we have the colonial merchants that are not buying or selling any British made items because of the non importation agreement. And that is known as a boycott. All that. Let's go on. Whoa, 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 whoa. Go backwards. This thing has a mind of its own, you know. All right, so let's look at this. No taxation without representation. Again, we're talking about that. No taxation without representation. So Virginians take the lead protesting against the Stamp Act. Virginians. Now, wait a second. Where's this happening at? It's mostly happening in Massachusetts. Now, why is Virginia getting involved? Because they're being asked for help. They're being asked for help. The people of Massachusetts, especially Boston, are asking for help. Now, you mean this isn't happening all over the 13 colonies? Not really. Not really. But it's going to start happening if they don't do something about it. So let's take a look at what they do. In the House of Burgesses, a young lawyer named Patrick Henry. Know this guy's name, Patrick Henry. He called the act illegal and proposed other resolutions or ideas against it. Let's come against this now before it ends up hurting us. Proactive, proactive choice. A Massachusetts Assembly suggested a meeting of representatives from all of the colonies, all 13 colonies, to write up a protest against the Stamp Act. Big move. Now you realize that these colonies don't always get along. But he's asking for all 13 colonies to kind of join together here and let's write something against the Stamp Act because it's going to affect all of us. So in 1765, a lot of things happened in 1765, kind of like 2020. In New York City, the Stamp Act Congress was formed. Stamp Act Congress. Understand that? So let's take a look again. 1765, in New York City, the Stamp Act Congress was formed. People from all of the 13 colonies, delegates from all 13 colonies. So there was enough people there representing everybody to come and talk about this thing and see what they're going to do about it. Hopefully they can fix the problem. So let's read and see what they actually do. So in spite of all their differences, they came together and actually wrote something to King George III, to the king himself. These were carefully respectable words. And after all, Congressional Congress, they were all still loyal British subjects. Everybody was still a loyal British subject. They simply wanted the government to recognize their rights under British law. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with sending a letter, so they did. Today we just sent a text. Grenville and others in England were astonished at what these people wrote. In their opinion, Parliament had every right to tax Americans as well as British subjects anywhere. That includes India, the West Indies, parts of Africa, wherever they had the British Empire, they could tax those people as much as they want to. Many members of Parliament were strongly against repealing the Stamp Act, believing that if they did, it would make them look weak, and then they would take advantage of them. The colonists would take advantage of the British. Were they right? Absolutely right. The British were right on this. Well, wait a second now, Mr. Johnson, whose side are you on? I'm on history's side. But you have to look at all sides of this. If you give in and you give in and you give in, eventually the people are going to realize, they'll just give in anyway. Just like me. If I give in to everybody, then what good is my word when I say I'm going to do this and I just don't do it? You understand? So, on the other hand, the British merchants wanted to sell their goods and they were missing out. And finally, they told Grenville, listen, you have to make some kind of a deal because we are losing money. We are losing a lot of money. We got this stuff sitting in a warehouse here. We can't get rid of it. So you need to start doing something. Grenville thought, yeah, they're probably right. So on March 1766, Parliament finally repealed or took back or got rid of, however you want to say it, the Stamp Act. Finally did, a year later. At the same time, it passed another set of acts meant to warn the colonists against any future protests. They got you coming and going. Listen to this. It was called the Declaratory Act. The Declaratory Act, which stated that Parliament had the right to rule and tax the colonies in any way they wanted to. Wow. Any way they wanted to, huh? Hmm. Well, they got them there. So let's take a look. One of the reasons why they did that, no colonists were following this tax law. So let's just repeal it. But let's put a law in place that we say we can tax anybody that we want to, anytime we want to, and they can't come against it. Really? Do we have an amendment about that? It's called the First Amendment, the right to assemble peaceably. It does have the word peaceably in there, not go breaking windows and ruining people's lives, but you have a right to protest peaceably. They don't care. They don't care. So, Stamp Act was repealed. Let's go over this again. In 1766, Parliament did enact the new Declaratory Act. That's what we were talking about, the Declaratory Act. And they have the right to rule and tax anybody in their empire, not just the colonies, in their empire, which could be places all over the world. Wow. What else are these people going to do? Well, there's more problems. More problems? How could there be more problems? Because there's a lot more money to be gotten yet. So let's take a look. Parliament still needs money. They still need money. So in 1767, the year that they got rid of the Stamp Act, they added something else. They were called the Townshend Acts. The Townshend Acts. Townshend Acts, I'm sorry. The Townshend Acts. Now, what are the Townshend Acts? Well, it placed a tax on glass, lead, paint, paper, and tea coming into the colonies. Glass, lead, paint. Those are some weird things. Paper, well, you need paper. And tea, oh my goodness, you have to have tea. But now we're going to tax them. So there was tax on all of these things. All of these things. This money would be used to pay British officials in the colonies because there was British officials in the colonies that needed to be paid, and why not just use this money? So they came up with another idea, didn't they? It also allowed officials to obtain what they call writs, and it's not rights, it's writs of assistance. Writs of assistance, what does that mean? It's a blank search warrant. A blank search warrant for anywhere to be searched for smugglers. Oh, you're going to smuggle paint now, huh? You're going to smuggle glass? Hey, I got some lead over here. That's right. And people were smuggling it. They were bringing it in from what we call today Canada. They were bringing it in. There's always a way that people will get things they want, right? Back in the Depression times, 1930s, a lot of people made a lot of money smuggling in alcohol because there was a law against alcohol that you weren't allowed to have it, you weren't allowed to make it, you weren't allowed to sell it. So these people were out of business, right? No, not necessarily. Because you had people like Al Capone, that was a gangster, and he smuggled in a lot of alcohol. He had the whole territory of Chicago sewn up. That was his territory. Anybody that came against him, well, you know what he did. He made sure he got rid of the problem permanently. And these people are going to do the same thing. They're going to smuggle things in. Well, this will become our Fourth Amendment. Isn't it something? Now, we saw something very important, that this writs of assistance, that you can just come into anybody's home or car or whatever you have to and just search it. What do you need to search with? A search warrant, right? So if they knock on your door, boom, 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 we're coming in. You have a search warrant? If they do, you gotta let them in. If they don't, come back when you have one. So let's take a look at what that Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution says. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects under or against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall be issued but upon probable probable cause. Like there could be something happening there. Supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, what is a probable cause? Well, probable cause could be a policeman pulls up to your car and he smells marijuana. That's probable cause that you might have been smoking in there. They can search your car. Yeah, probable cause. Um, they might come up to your car and ask you, can they search your car? If you say no, they could bring a dog. If the dog smells drugs or alcohol or firearms, gunpowder, whatever it is, and it's alerted to that, that is a probable cause. Probable cause. Now let's go to your house. What about your house? I should have Officer Dina tell you about this. If there is a probable cause that you might be doing something illegal in your house, or something's happening, and maybe the neighbors have said things, called in multiple times, 911 or something like that. The police have to get a judge to sign a search warrant. You better have pretty good probable cause for a judge to put their name on a search warrant, because they don't just sign those to sign them. So when you see these cops go into a house and they break the door down and they have a warrant, it took a lot to get that warrant. Sometimes it may take days or even weeks to get that warrant. They have to do a lot of work, a lot of research to make sure that what they're doing is correct, right? So when they knock on your door and they say, we have a search warrant for your house or for your garage or for all of it, then you got to let them in. So there's a lot goes into that. And I think I'll explain a little bit more of this later on. But can you imagine just having somebody break your door down and coming in? Well, the Nazis did that in World War II. Yes, they did. There was no probable cause. They just did it. They just did it. Well, where's their Constitution? They didn't have one. They didn't have one. And their laws were long gone once the Nazis took over. We never want to see that happen in America. That's why we have that Constitution. And why am I so adamant about talking about the Constitution? Because I don't want to lose it. I want to keep it. I want to keep it for you. It's important that we know what the Constitution says and how it affects us every day of our lives. We must keep it the way it is and not change it. So let's go on a little bit further. This is interesting. Should I finish this? Maybe I should wait. You know what? I think I'm going to wait because it's already at 25 minutes. You see how fast time goes when we're having fun. So I'm going to wait and I'm going to put this on later. We're going to talk about this. Something called the Boston Massacre. Boston Massacre. It's a real important thing, and I don't want to do it in just 2 minutes. I want to take some time on it and show you some evidence. So until then, let's have a good week. Let's have a good week. Today is already Tuesday. No, Wednesday today, already Wednesday. And we're going to have a good week. So until then, I'll talk to you later.